Retail and hospitality is changing, with often complex and fragmented systems combined with large volumes of customer data for businesses to make sense of. It's critical to work with the right partners in order to guarantee success. At Tratec Consulting, we help retail and hospitality businesses transform their technology, removing overly bloated processes and creating unified and efficient systems of working throughout. So don't just take our word for it. See for yourself. Tratec Consulting, the leaders in technology transformation across retail and hospitality.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the All Things Borough podcast, the official podcast for Farnborough Football Club, and sponsored by Tratec Consulting. Tratec takes your business visions and turns them into innovative reality. Good evening, everyone watching us on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. It's me, Alan, and I'm joined by Simon. Good evening, Simon. How are you doing?
Evening, Alan. Yes, very well, thank you. Yeah, all good. Off, finished work for the year now. Happy days. Loving my week.
One more day. I've got one more day, and that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, I kind of almost wish I hadn't booked it off because I've been spending my evenings watching the cricket, unfortunately. So it's gone down very well.
Yeah.
Not as many evenings as you'd hoped.
No. Some were rather cut short, Kieran. Yeah. They were. I did manage to get more sleep on those. I'm not going to bother. I've decided I'm not going to bother this evening. Go to bed at a reasonable hour. So rather than staying up till 3 o'clock watching us lose more and more wickets. And we won't get talking about the Snicko stuff. That's maybe that's for another podcast for another time. But yeah, we are. Yes. Anyway,
we don't have to explain to everybody what baseball is, anyway, do we?
No, not quite. No, it's not. That's not.
Not that it works clearly, but anyway,
that's not some kind of joke based on the character from EastEnders either. By the way, just in case you want. Yeah.
I've got that joke has gone over my head, and I used to watch EastEnders. So, but anyway, that voice that you heard there, and the person you can see is the one and only Kieran Maguire, the author of the Price of Football book and co-host of the Price of Football podcast. Good evening, Kieran. How are you doing?
I'm very good, guys. I have just got back from Lapland, which isn't a club run by Peter Stringfellow.
Oh, okay.
It is. It is that real place up in the Arctic Circle. So
I was going to say, I'm sure I've been there, Kieran, once or twice. Anyway, we'll move on.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. On expenses, that's the dangerous
thing. Of course, yes. One of those work parties that went wrong. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm bouncing around. I've been husky sledding and reindeer riding and on snowmobiles and went to see the governor. With my two granddaughters, who are just sort of completely awestruck by it all, as you can imagine.
Were they really?
Yes.
That's brilliant. That is brilliant. Yeah.
Fantastic. That sounds fantastic. I was going to say the proper lap there, not the one in Windsor or Hyde Park.
No. This one is It was two flights. And saw the Northern Lights and all that type of stuff, and it was absolutely incredible. If anybody ever gets the chance, I'm a very privileged person to be able to get there. But I take the kids whilst they're at that age where they will still be going.
Yeah, amazing.
God.
Yeah. I have to say, I think the closest to the Northern Lights I've ever been was I think I flew over Newcastle once and looked down and there it was. But St James's Park, St James's Park had a reserve game on that night. I was just lucky enough to see it. So we are. Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, so wonderful, mate. Yeah, fantastic. You were in. Didn't you have a long extended trip to Spain, back to Sussex, and then off to Portugal? Or was it the other way around the other day?
Yeah. I a couple of weeks ago. I'm not very organised, and I'm very, very fortunate that I've got a hobby, which is football finance, which masquerades as a job. So I got sent to Porto, and I was there for doing something, and there was lots of Scott Minto and loads of people from clubs there for an organisation that organises speed dating for football transfers, and it works really well. So I was there for a couple of days, and then I had to get from Porto to Seville. So I went via Gatwick, pick up Mrs. M, and took her for a few days to Seville. Yes, but I've been whizzing around a bit.
Obviously, not realising the two countries are next door to each other. But anyway, that's yeah.
No, that would involve a bit of common sense, which I am famously lacking.
Happy days, happy days. Right,
Right.
we'll
Anyway,
get
right.
cracking.
So look, for those who are watching, obviously you can see that Kieran's here. He's a football finance expert, and it is your second appearance on the show with us. So again, welcome back. I should have said at the top of the show, but well, look, we're not going to be talking about non-league football or Farnborough Football Club tonight. So this is all about whatever we can think of, really. And we've already briefed what we're going to talk about. So firstly, we'll talk about the World Cup. You recently was invited to the draw over there. How was that? And what are we thinking about the draw? And more importantly, what we're thinking about the ticket prices? Because I've seen some numbers banded around by some fans of what they think they're going to have to spend, and I think the one number I saw was £43,000. So I mean, it's crazy money. It's crazy, isn't it? Really, Kieran?
Yeah, yeah. I was invited to the American Embassy to watch the draw take place. I don't know why. I think they seem to think I was a journalist, and I just kept my mouth shut. I'm just a teacher. But sort of, my boss said, "Yeah, you go for it." So the American Embassy staff were absolutely brilliant, and sadly it was the American Embassy in London, but it's right overlooking Vauxhall and the Thames, and they got a fantastic place. So we went through for a briefing from security staff, travel staff, tourism, and so on, and they are they are very excited about it. And there's a lot of politics at present in FIFA and football. Set those to one side. I was impressed with the level of professionalism of the people that were presenting, and then we went to the watch the draw itself, and I was with some fairly well-known journalists, and I thought this possibly isn't going to end well. I mean, I don't drink, so it didn't particularly bother me, but there was a free bar between 5 p.m. and midnight at the American
Oh wow.
Embassy, and free food, and the food was absolutely brilliant, by the way. And then of course, if people remember the draw, I think it's fair to say it took its time. It dragged on a bit.
Yeah.
So people were having a good time. So yes, as far as the ticket prices are concerned, the ticket prices are 3 to 4 times. We've had sort of this is sort of the third or fourth stage of ticket releases from FIFA. Initially, it went to people who had a certain brand of credit card, so they were
Mm,
given first dibs. We are now at sort of at the public ballot, and that's going to
mm.
continue for a few weeks into the new year. But yes, what people were taken back by, and I must confess I wasn't. I'm fully aware of FIFA's
Yeah.
inner workings. Was that the prices were 300 to 400% higher than they were for Qatar 2022, and those prices were a big step up themselves from where we were in Russia in 2018. And FIFA had been typically FIFA in the sense that they'd originally said, "Oh yeah, there'll be tickets for as low as $60." And those tickets were available in the first ballot for people
Mm,
with the credit card, but it turns out there was probably about 100 per match. Then the next tier of tickets, you're probably talking 100 150, 180. But what FIFA have done for the first time is they've looked at the two clubs, and this is no disrespect. Yeah, if it's Switzerland versus Cape Verde, they'll say, okay, there's only so many people want to go to see that. If it's Germany or Brazil or England, or the host nations,
mm.
the United States, Canada, and Mexico, we know there's going to be huge interest, and we're going to reflect that in the price. So yeah, the ticket prices are very, very high. If you want to get to the final, you're paying up to $8,000 for a ticket, and FIFA will say, well, they're not unreasonable because we've had 20 million inquiries from people wanting to buy tickets. And the reason why they've had 20 million inquiries is that you can resell the tickets. So you've got organised crime, you've got professional touting organisations, you've got bots, and also you've got people who just say, "Well, I've got no interest in soccer, but yeah, if
Mm.
what's it's going to cost me, yeah, $150, or it might cost me a couple of $1,000 for these tickets. I reckon I can relist them and double, treble my money." So
Yeah.
it's become a speculator's sort of gold rush, and that's what we've seen, which has meant, as a result of that, what you might call the legacy fans. And I've been to World Cups, and if anybody that's ever been to a World Cup will say the same thing. It's a fantastic experience, and it's not just the football. Just like on match day, when you're going to watch Farnborough, or I'm going to watch my team, it's not the 90 minutes of football that's the main thing. It's being with like-minded people. It's getting to meet other people from other countries as well, and
Mm.
you've got that hook. The first thing you
Yeah.
say is, which country are you from, and have you seen your team yet, and what do you think of England's chances? What do you think of? And you've got football is this universal lubricant in the sense that I don't know how to start a conversation with
Yeah.
anybody unless it's football. For me, the worst thing that can ever happen is you get invited to a wedding on a Saturday, and you go, oh, yeah. And Mrs. M says, yeah, we all need to go to this one. And I'm going, yeah, yeah, okay, fine. I'm thinking, oh yeah, it's I'm missing a match here. And then you sit down and you've been to the ceremony, and it's sort of, it hits 3 o'clock, and you're on that circular table, aren't you, with a load of people you don't know. And you turn to
Yeah.
your left and you say, who do you support? Who are you playing today? And if they
Yeah.
say, I don't like football, you think this is going to be the longest 2 or 3 hours of my life of the
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Whereas if they say, it doesn't matter whether it's Millwall or Barnsley or Farnborough, it does not matter.
Yeah.
As soon as you say, I support my team, and you've got a link, you've got a
Yeah.
conversation, and you can natter away for the rest of the day. So it is it will be a fantastic experience if there are genuine football fans there. My fear is that the hardcore England fans, those boys and girls that have been watching England home and away for years, will be squeezed out in terms of price, and instead you'll have people going there because am I allowed to swear?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, please
Okay,
do. Yeah,
okay,
more
okay.
the merrier.
Okay, but people were going to there not because they're necessarily they like football, but they're mainly because they're middle class twats,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they want to be seen. Yeah, and it's all about it's all about the Insta. It's all about
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
look at me, I'm at this football match, isn't it absolutely great? And then somebody will say, how much are you going to pay for it? I paid this much for a ticket, aren't I a lad?
Yeah.
And so on. And we live in a world of social media, and you have to move with the times, but it's not football as I know it. Equally, I remember being in Euro '96. I went to loads of games in Euro '96, including the semi-final, not the England semi-final, sadly,
Mm.
but the other semi-final, which was between France and the Czech Republic. And I watched that at Anfield, and this was only 30 years ago. There were 20,000 empty seats. Football as a business has really taken off
Mm.
in the last sort of 10 to 20 years. It's partly due to the fact that we are all permanently linked online these days, and football is now consumed 24/7 and so on. And FIFA are aware of this, and FIFA have appointed themselves as the official ticket tout organisers of the 2026 World Cup, and they're charging 30% commission. They take 15% from the buyer and 15% from the seller. And when I talk to people in the United States, they say, well, what's the issue? It's economics, it's supply and demand. It's what we do all the time. So I think our attitude as European fans is different. We come from a different football culture, but
Mm.
if England make progress, and of course that's what we want, and whilst I'm an England fan, I still want Scotland to make progress. I still want the other home nations to A, get there, and B, give people something to shout about, because I've got Scottish mates and Welsh mates and Irish mates and so on, and it will be great for them. But the prices will be eye-watering, and my concern is people will get themselves into debt, and
Yeah.
and they'll say, "Sod it, it's England, it's in the semi-finals, and you want to be there." I mean, I was in Berlin last year for the final, watching England against Spain, and you want to say, it was a terrible game of football, or rather, England were terrible at that game of football. Um, and you do say, I'll worry about how I'm going to pay for it later, and then it comes back to bite you on the bum.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with they did. FIFA have kind of an self appointed themselves as tout agents for the World Cup. That's a pretty spot on, really. But I know what you mean about the wedding that you mentioned as well. So I remember I went to a wedding once, and we got to half 10, and everyone all the ladies were all dancing on the dance floor, and all the guys, was about 20 of us, were all huddled around a little TV in the bar watching match of the day. So it was fantastic. Yeah,
Everyone's
one
a
of the
winner.
best weddings I've ever been to. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was your wedding as well, though, wasn't it, Simon?
Yeah, yeah. I wish that would have been fantastic. Yeah, yeah, that would have been amazing. But they don't like football as much in Hungary, sadly. So I couldn't get the football on. It was water polo or handball, wasn't it? I think it's not got
Oh yeah, God, handball.
yeah,
They're mad for
yeah.
it.
Yeah, they like a bit of water polo as well. But after people, I don't know how they don't drown. To be fair, and as for those little caps, I don't think I'd suit one of those. I've seen many men in this country wear those. It wasn't for playing water polo, I could tell you that.
But yes, it does seem like they are maybe pricing a lot of people out of going with some of these prices. But they have sort of, I read the other day, they have sort of introduced these new sort of lower prices, like as you said, Kieran, these $60 tickets or £45 tickets. But there's not going to be. It doesn't seem like there's going to be very many of them to buy.
No, no. What they have done is that there's going to be another ballot, and that's going to be for the fans of individual countries. So, 8% of the tickets for whether it doesn't matter whether the match is in Guadalajara or Toronto or Dallas or Atlanta, 8% of the tickets effectively go to the Football Association of the country involved, which is good because you want to see Mexico fans at a Mexican match, you want to see Cape Verde fans at a Cape Verde match, and English fans at an English match. So that is good, but it's only 8%, and then only 10% of those tickets are going to be at these new lower prices. So do the maths. 8% of 10% is 0.8%. 50,000 ticket, 50,000 seater stadium. That's 400 tickets. I think there's more than 400 England fans that will be going to in the United States. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm glad you did the maths there. I was trying to work that out, and I came to 28,000. I thought that's not bad.
not so bad, is it? I'll take it back, Jenny. Like it? Yeah, okay.
But aside from that, you obviously you're looking forward to the World Cup. Are you planning on getting over there to watch any games, or are you just going to be like the rest of us and watch them over here at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is?
It's for people that don't know me. I'm a teacher, and I teach football finance. One of my students is Mexican, and he runs the biggest octopus exporting company in Mexico. So he's invited myself and his wife across because he came down with a group of students. They came down to spend a weekend with us a few months ago because I teach in Liverpool, but I live near Brighton. I've got a Brighton season ticket. So we went to all to a match together. So if that comes, I might end up going to Mexico. I'm not willing to go to the United States, and that's not a political issue. I just can't be asked. You don't know whether the matches are going to take place in the cities. You end up booking a flight, booking a hotel, and President Trump has said that he might say to FIFA, I don't want the match taking place in this particular city for whatever reason. It's his country. He's been elected. He can do what the hell he wants, but he's not taking into consideration football fans if that degree of uncertainty is involved. That won't be the case in Canada. That won't be the case in Mexico. So if I go, I'll go to one of those two countries instead.
Is that seriously the case, Kieran? I hadn't heard this before. Is he literally got carte blanche to sort of say, I don't fancy it there, we're going to move it here? That's madness, surely.
Well,
I know
he says
he's.
he's got a good
I read today.
relationship with Infantino.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I read today that he's actually put like a flight ban on, is it Senegal and
Yeah.
um
Ivory
and
Coast,
one
is
other
it?
country,
Yeah,
one
yeah.
other
There,
nation,
there was a few others
in
before that as well, wasn't
Yeah, Haiti
in
and
turn,
Iran.
Yeah.
yeah, which in turn stops obviously those fans coming over to
Mm.
watch their national team play. Which, well, on the face of it is sad, but obviously we're not a political podcast or anything like that, much to Simon's annoyance. But we I can understand why he's doing that, but like you say, he's got to think of the football fans really. So there's going to have to be some sort of special measures, isn't there, for these actual fans to be able to come over?
I suspect the welfare of football fans is not high on the priority
Yeah, probably.
of
Yeah,
concerns.
probably.
He's not. I'd
Probably.
say President Trump is not the probably the only one to think in those terms. Unfortunately, is he? I know
No,
he does probably does get a bad press, but he's not the only one, to be fair. So yeah. But I know what he's thinking. He doesn't want these. When we've had it before. I remember at a previous World Cup, there was a very sort of third worldish type country came over, and all the players tried to get political asylum before they flew back at
Mm.
one of them. So I think Trump's wary of that and doesn't want it happening there because he's obviously done
Yeah,
quite a
yeah,
nice job getting the immigration numbers down already this year.
yeah.
Doesn't want it suddenly ballooning because they've got a World Cup. So I can kind of see it from both sides if I'm honest. But yeah, whilst it's I think in football terms, obviously I think it's quite sad. But there we are.
yep.
Yes. Right. Let's come back home then. Let's come back over here and let's talk about what's going on in this country. There's a few things that we want to discuss with you. Firstly, is this new independent regulator for the Premier League. Who is this person and what's their job? What does he have to do?
Right. So the last administration, the Conservative Party under Boris Johnson, commissioned a fan-led review. Lots of people presented to it, including me. Uh, I then wrote two sort of research papers. I was asked to do so by the government into the state of finances, and the government, on the back of many things, sure it wasn't to do with anything that I'd said, decided to recommend an independent football regulator for the top five tiers of English football. So it goes down as far as National League, not National League South.
Okay.
So it is going to govern the 116 clubs. It's going to operate a licensing system. So in order to be able to play professional football in the top five leagues, there'll be a list of things that you have to do. If you're a Premier League club, you should be doing them anyway. If you're an EFL club, you should be doing them anyway, in my view. It's simple things like, have you got enough money to last the season? Can you evidence that? Have you got a business plan? And football clubs are businesses.
Yeah. Yeah.
You support Farnborough FC because you're local lads and you got that romantic link with the club. But it's I've got their accounts in front of me. They've got bills to pay just like every other business. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
matter whether
Yeah.
you're the biggest business in the world, whether you're Apple or Microsoft or whether you're a one man show, you've still got a business to run. So there's sort of three areas that the regulator is going to look at. First of all, the financial part of the game. So have you got a business plan? Secondly, are the people in charge people who we want to be in charge?
Mm.
So the regulator will have statutory power to investigate, and it'll be able to use government agencies to do checks that, say, the Premier League or the EFL or the National League couldn't do. And anything that stops wrong-uns getting into football, I think, I broadly welcome.
Yeah.
I'm not ideologically in favour of a regulator. I don't see why is it affecting football and not rugby and not cricket. But outside of my family, what's the thing I would least like to lose in
Mm.
my life? Okay, it's my football team,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I can get another job, I can get another bicycle, I can get another car. If my house burns down, I can get another house.
Mm.
I can't fall in love with a football club the way I've fallen in love with mine.
Yeah.
So it is the nearest thing to family I think that we have, which isn't our family, and family always comes first. So therefore, it does need protection, and we've lost Bury FC, we've lost Macclesfield Town, we've lost rugby clubs, and a lot more rugby clubs than football clubs. So I think there is a view that football needs protecting from people who are chancers, wrong uns, scammers, and there's loads of them around, and there's loads of them around in football. So that but with house, and the third issue is sort of to protect what you might call the heritage of football. If your owner said, I want to move to, I want to move to North Wales, Conway, or I want to go
Yeah.
relocate the club to Dublin. You go, hold on, we're Farnborough FC.
Mm.
What's to protect? So there will be protection in terms of where the club plays, the colour of your shirt, the crest. And it doesn't mean that these things can't take place, but there has to be some form of fan consultation and exchange of views. So those are the issues. And I guess the one thing which is sort of overhanging it all is the Premier League and the EFL. They don't get on when it comes to working out how much of the TV money should go to whom. The Premier League's opposed to the regulator, and I absolutely understand why. And my argument has always been all that the Premier League has had to do over the course of the last 3 to 4 years is to go to the EFL and say, we currently give you, I think it works out as around about 17-18% of our TV deal goes to clubs in receipt of parachute payments and also what's known as solidarity payments. So all of the 72 clubs in the EFL get a share of the Premier League's TV money. If they said, we're going, the EFL say we want 25. If the Premier League say, we'll give you 20, I can assure you the EFL would have snapped their hand off, and the EFL would have said, right, we will drop our support for the regulator. If that's what we have to do, we'll just take the money. But the Premier League's been too greedy. It's been too short-sighted here, and the offer it did make to the EFL was pretty derisory. So the regulator has the power to say, if you two can't get in a room together and sort it out, and the regulator doesn't want to get involved. It says as a last resort, we'll do the deal. So I suspect that's where we're heading. Now the regulator, the chair of the regulator, is a guy called David Cogan. He's previously negotiated, ironically, the TV deals between the Premier League and Sky and between the EFL and Sky and so on. So he knows his way around broadcasting very well. I think it's fair to say that he is robustly independent. I've had one conversation with him. I wasn't quite sure what to make of it. He's very, very impressive indeed. And I know that there are political links to him and the Labour Party. You can't judge a person from one conversation, but the way he was talking, nobody tells him what to do. So he's fiercely independent, which I think is good for football fans. He's a Spurs fan. But he knows all of the clubs, and if you read some of the interviews with him, for anybody that is interested, I'd encourage. There's a good one with the Times with Martin Samuel, who again is a big skeptic about the regulator, but he came away from this saying, well, yeah, he's an important. But the guy that's going to be running it on a day-to-day basis, a guy called Richard Monk, he comes from a regulatory background, so he's used to regulating. And I don't want football to be regulated. I think it's an indictment of the Football Association. But then the FA it's called the FA for a reason, because it's done FA for England football fans for the last 30 or 40 years. It's done FA for grassroots football. With that terrible incident in Littlehampton when a young man lost his life, because they're still prepared to allow football grounds to have concrete barriers surrounding the pitch. So I think the FA could have been the regulator of football itself, but it's not got the backbone to do so. It's not got the interest in doing so. It's too busy, getting itself preening itself about the England team. And the England women's team, absolutely fantastic. What the Lionesses have achieved, and the England football team, the men's team, it has improved. I think you're probably too. I remember not qualifying for the 74 and the 78 World Cup and the 1994 World Cup and the Steve McLaren debacle and so on. So, England are now big hitters, and the FA does deserve some credit for that. But I think it could do more for the broader aspects of the game. It's failed the game in that regard.
So
Yeah,
with
I
this
think in terms
independent
of
regulator, is it really? Sorry, Tom. Is it really that simple that if the Premier League and the EFL had just managed to do that deal like properly, then we wouldn't have this independent regulator in place?
Well, if you
Or
take a look at
is it more
the
complicated?
governing bodies of football, we've got the Football Association, which hasn't really got involved. It's not expressed an opinion. I think it would
Yeah,
rather we didn't have a regulator. We've got the Premier League, who is very opposed to it. We've got the EFL, who all of a sudden announced 2 years ago, yeah, we want the regulator. And then you got the
yeah,
National League, who are opposed to the regulator. So the only people championing the regulator are fan groups. And yeah, let's be honest, fan groups don't get a pretty raw deal in football. And the
mm,
EFL. If I'd been the Premier League and I really wanted to not have a regulator, I'd have gone to the EFL. I said, okay, here's a 10-year deal, minimum of 10-year deal, 20%. This is what you're
yeah,
going to get. This is going to be the extra millions for Championship, League One, League Two. Have a vote on it. The EFL would, and as part of that vote, we want you to change your position as far as
mm,
your
yeah,
support for the regulator. I think the EFL chairman would have voted for that because
yeah,
why not? They
yeah,
need the money.
yeah.
money
They get the
talks at
more
the end of
money
the day,
then,
doesn't
wouldn't
it? And
they? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what the money was. It was something like 8% or something. The Premier League were prepared to give of the money. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous amount considering you've got 20 teams that basically like running it like the Godfather of English football. And then you've got all the other teams fighting out for the less than 10% of the money pot. It's completely mad. So I mean, there are teams that pretty much every single team below the Premier League, some in the Premier League, they're all running at a loss per week, aren't they?
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think there's I
Yeah.
don't think there's any. I mean, it's worth the championship this season. I think is one of the worst financially I think I've seen ever. And it seems to be getting worse and worse and worse each week. I don't know if you've got any sort of figures at the top of your head. I know some clubs are doing better, slightly better than others, but most are
Well,
losing
the
10, 15
average
grand a week.
losses in the championship are 400 grand a week. The average losses in League One didn't used to be too bad, but in the last couple of seasons, we've seen a real change there. The average losses in League One are around about 100, 120 grand a week. League Two's not too bad. It's probably in the region of 15 to 20. National League, you get some, Stockport, when they were promoted, they lost 5 million quid. When Wrexham got promoted, despite all of the attention they were getting, all of the sponsorship deals, they lost over 4 million quid. It's a very, very expensive hobby. And that's fine until if I'm a stamp collector, if I'm an amateur cyclist, if I collect butterflies, that's fine. That's my hobby. If I lose interest, well, nobody gives a damn. If I'm running a
Mm,
football club and it's losing 100 grand a week, and then I lose interest, as we have seen, Derby County, the club owner just said, that's cost me a fortune. I put the club into administration, walks away, never goes to another football match again. Well, it's the poor people of Derby. You look to see what's happened at Sheffield Wednesday.
mm,
And these people are wealthy. Mel Morris at Derby put thick end of £200 million. Chancery at Sheffield Wednesday, he's put in the thick end of 150. So they're putting in ridiculous amounts of money, and then they turn the taps off.
mm.
And you can't go. Anybody that's ever had a nice lifestyle and then the next minute lost their job, it's the equivalent of that. And that drop down, you've still got all your outgoings, you've still got the players' contracts, you've still got the maintenance of the stadium, you've still got transportation to away matches and so on. To actually come to terms with that when the owner loses interest for whatever reason is very difficult to deal with.
Just so people understand, Kieran, what is the I don't even know if you can answer this, but what is the number one outgoing of a football club? I mean, for me, it's probably, I'm going to have a guess here and say it's probably player wages.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
of course, mate.
But the bonkers thing is, you've got some clubs paying 140, 150. I remember Reading one year, for every £100 the club generated through ticket sales, through the broadcast deal, and through commercial, they were spending 240 quid on wages. In any other business, you just close the business down straight away.
Yeah,
Yeah, if I was
yeah,
running a
yeah,
nightclub, if I was running a garage, if I was running a supermarket, you go, well, yeah, we're losing money. Just bin it off. Football
yeah,
is utterly bonkers. But yeah, wages is the biggest expense, and you understand why, because every time you go away on a Saturday afternoon, you want to see your team win. Well, how do you increase your chances of winning? By having better players. How do you get better players? You pay them more money. You take them from
mm,
other clubs, and it
yeah,
creates that vortex of wage inflation.
Yeah,
And I never criticise football players for the wages they earn for two reasons. Firstly, I teach for the Professional Footballers Association, so what people see as football players out on the pitch, I see as students. And
mm,
you talk to them, and they're the same as us. You know, their brothers, their husbands, their boyfriends, their sons, their dads. You know, um, and as one player said to me, you know, I'm playing for, you know, I won't name the club. I'm playing for a club in League Two. This is how much I earn a week. Yeah, it's good money. And he said to me, if you broke your leg in March, how would it affect your job at the university? I say, well, it wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to lecture, or have to get. I did actually do my knee, and I ended up teaching on crutches just because I love what I do. He says,
mm,
okay, yeah, yeah, and you say, yeah, but you'll be back in a few months. Yeah, he says, if that I'm a League Two player. Yeah, I don't get a 2-year contract. I normally get a 1-year contract. If
mm,
I break my leg in March, going in for a 50-50 tackle, I'm out. My contract's not renewed in June, in all probability. And who's going to sign me?
yeah,
You know, who's going to sign me? So, in what other job do you know where professional people are one tackle away from the end of their career? So you put it like that, and also, let's be honest. I'm hoping I'm not insulting you, Simon Allen, but if we were decent at football, we want to do the job, and
yeah,
I've never known anybody go into a negotiation. Yeah, I don't know what you guys do, but whenever somebody's offered me work, they say this is how much we're prepared to offer you, and say, oh no, 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 think about the customers. You know, pay me 20% less. That's not going
yeah,
to happen, is
yeah.
it? Yeah, let's
No,
be
no,
realistic. So it's
yeah,
not being greedy. No, the players don't force clubs to offer the contracts. The clubs choose to do so. But perhaps we need to be focusing on the people that run the clubs rather than the players.
yeah, I couldn't
yeah,
agree with you. I mean,
yeah. I agree with you.
and
Yeah,
also what to add to that, as well as all the things you said, Kieran, about footballers and et cetera, and one tackle away from the end. It's also it's a short playing career anyway, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
most people would say they'd go into a job and then maybe start proper job at say 20 25, work to 65. That's 40 years. You can't play football for 40 years, so you're lucky if you get half that. So
yeah,
it is a little short career, but also so you touched on it actually briefly there. It's something that's happened to Farnborough actually. One of our players, Aaron Cool, has broke his leg in two places. He broke his leg at the end of the start of the season in August, end of August, and so he's on the road back to recovery now. And there is a few sort of question marks with our club whether what's going to happen with him. Is he gonna continue next year? I'm assuming his contract's up in the summer. He'll be pretty fit then, hopefully. But where does he stand regarding his playing career? Because he's near 30 now as well, which isn't ideal either. So everyone's sort of wondering, there's a lot of people probably haven't actually said it in as many words, but are probably thinking what's going to happen to Aaron Cole. We're going to see him play for
mm,
Farnborough again because
mm,
his contract's up, and will the club want to renew it? If he does renew it, is he going to get the same terms he was on before?
exactly.
It's things like that, and it's very likely that he could only get a 6-month deal or a year deal the next
Yeah,
time he
yeah,
signs.
yeah,
So there's all these sort of factors, isn't there?
yeah, yeah. And it's a talent industry. Yeah, when
mm,
if I go to watch a music concert, if I go to the theatre, if I go to watch a film, if I watch something on telly, um, people are paid what they're paid. And I've never come out of a film and said, oh, that was really good. One of my favourite films is Toy Story. But I didn't walk out and say, oh, yeah, but Tom Hanks, he's been paid. He ruined it for me because he's been paid too much. And yet, the number of times, how many times you listen to TalkSport? Oh, no, can't watch the game. Players are paid too much. You're being conditioned to think like this
Yeah,
by the
yeah,
media.
yeah,
Because there's that resentment that working class lads shouldn't earn decent money. Bollocks to that. You know,
yeah,
it's the billionaire owners that I've got more of an issue with, not the guys. You know, these people have brought me more happiness than again anything outside of my family and my life. So I
mm.
don't begrudge them a penny.
No, no, of course not. No, no,
I
no.
think
This
you,
is
I
their, this
think
is
you
their
set your
livelihood, isn't it? This is their living.
yeah, I think you set your case up perfectly there, Kieran, for the for your job at the the Union for Players' Rights. Perfect.
But look,
um,
just going back onto the Premier League. Obviously, they a few weeks ago, look, maybe a little bit longer ago, they had their own vote on I think it was a couple of deals or ways to go about the financial fair play. Can you explain a bit more on that? What they were voting on and what they voted for in the end?
Yeah, under the current rules, which are going to expire in June
Mm.
2026, you were allowed to lose 105 million pounds over 3 years if you were an established Premier League club. If you've just been promoted from the Championship, you're only allowed to lose 61. So that sort of discriminated against the likes of Forest when they came up, Brentford when they came up, Luton, Huddersfield, Brighton, and so on. Made it that much more difficult for those clubs to compete against the established clubs. That has now been replaced with it's not a wage cap, but it's got
Mm.
elements of a wage cap. And what it says is that for every £100 that you make through ticket sales, through the TV deal, through your kit sponsorship and so on, and from player sales, you can spend 85 on wages, transfers, agents fees, and player write downs. So that still means that if you're a big club like the Manchester clubs, Liverpool, the big London clubs, and so on, who are making 600 or 700 million, 85% of 700 million is what 600. You can spend 600 million on players. So you bring it
Yeah,
if you're a Brighton or a Palace or a Bournemouth and you bring in 200 million, 85% of that is 170. So there is still that big gap between
yeah,
the
yeah.
elite clubs and the middle class clubs. So yeah, that hasn't changed in any way. What has happened is the vote only just squeaked through under the Premier League rules. You've got to have a two-thirds majority. So that means you need 14 votes. Now, six clubs voted against the rules, and that was Brighton, Palace, Bournemouth, Fulham, Leeds, and Brentford. And those, of course, are the middle-class clubs.
Yeah,
Why did they
yeah.
do that? It's because they've got the most to fear from clubs that have just been promoted. They used to
Mm.
have an advantage over them. That advantage has gone, so they oppose those rules. But it got the 14 votes to allow it to go through. So that's where we are, and it's sort of I'm not I sound cynical here, but mainly because I am. It's just going to give another job for the accountants and lawyers to come up with schemes to get around
Yeah,
this, and
yeah,
they will, I can assure you. And I've spoken to some of them, and I've come up with a few ideas myself. There's for every rule, there's a loophole,
yeah. Of course, of course.
and it just makes celebrities out of accountants and lawyers, which you know I I didn't fall in love with football for that.
have you, with
No.
that in mind, have you spoken to your secret lawyer, Kieran?
I've got quite a few secret lawyers. Yeah. We've had a few conversations. Yeah, there will be appeals, there will be litigation, and yeah, fun and games.
Yeah, but there's sort of few things in life that are guaranteed. There's death and taxes, obviously, and you've got rich lawyers and
The,
and a
law-
ri-
the
and a rich bookie.
yeah, yeah, true.
Happy
And,
days.
and so, speaking of money in the Premier League, it's obviously Christmas is around the corner, which means that the January transfer window is soon to be open. Um, Realistically, in your eyes, who what clubs are out there in the Premier League are realistically able to do any kind of business in January?
Most of them can do something.
Yeah.
I think looking at the clubs who have perhaps got the least wiggle room, Villa perhaps
Mm.
needs to be a little bit more cautious. But if they're trying to get top five, and I think it is now top five from the Premier League, will be competing in the Champions League. Uh, the rewards are so great that they've certainly got the owners that are prepared to gamble. The Manchester United, they're in a strong position. City are, that's for sure. Liverpool, despite the record sums that they spent, they still sold a couple of players. Darwin Núñez went, for example, to the Middle East for 60 or 70 million, and so on. So they've all got scope to spend money if they so desire. I know a guy called Ian Graham who used to be Liverpool's. He was their director of research. He's a proper mathematician. He was the guy that came up with the algorithm, which meant that Liverpool have been a very successful football club in the last sort of 5 to 7 years,
Yeah.
despite having a lower budget than their peer group in terms of what they spend on players, because they've spent smarter rather than
Mm.
spending bigger.
Yeah.
And appreciate they've gone a bit the other way last summer. I mean, it just
Yeah.
shows they won the Premier League 12, in 24-25 with spending £12 million. They spend £400 million, and they're looking a bit iffy. And Brighton played them last weekend. I mean, Liverpool won 2-0, but it could easily have gone either way. Brighton
Mm.
spectacularly managed to miss some fairly easy chances.
Yeah, is there about some of the so-called the teams that come up like Leeds in particular? Is there any real wiggle room for them? 'Cause I know some of them will look at it and think this is our time. Sunderland possibly another one. I know they've spent a lot of money already. They're obviously thinking he could. Sunderland in particular would be one that thinks, you know what, if we spend now, we can guarantee ourselves Premier League football next year. Is there any wiggle room for these teams? Obviously, because
Yeah,
currently they're at a disadvantage, aren't they?
Yeah, well, that they are because of the way that the rules operate. Yeah, Sunderland are in a very strong position. They have recruited very well. They're going to lose, I think, 7 or 8 clubs for AFCON, which could hit them. They're playing Brighton this weekend, so I'm not going to be overly sympathetic towards them. You put you put everything aside when it's your team that's the opponents. But yeah, they've done very well. Leeds have spent again in excess of 100 million. I think even Burnley have. They're not getting a lot of attention, but they spread the money about. But they sold James Trafford back to Manchester City, and the profits
Yeah.
from that will set them up. So yeah, they've all got capacity to spend in terms of what's in the budget. It's really a case of, are the owners willing to provide the funds? They will have done their budgets, and it's not a case of signing a player if you survive. It's the problem arises is if you are in the bottom six and you sign, say you sign a striker for say for 15-18 million, which is that's going to buy you a half decent
Mm.
striker, one would hope. If you end up getting relegated, that lad's come in and he's on a basic of 40-45k a week. He won't have a big. That's not going down to 10 grand a week in the championship if the club
Yeah.
goes down. So it might go
Yeah.
down a wee bit, and then all of a sudden you're stuffed. Especially if he's not good enough for the Premier League. Where else is he going to go? Because other European leagues can't match the wages of the Premier League. So
Yeah.
so that's the paradox. That's the challenge, I think, for those clubs who are looking nervously over their shoulder.
More pointedly, if you were, I was going to put you hypothetically, if you were Wolves chairman or director of football at the moment, being where they are at the moment, almost pretty much doomed for relegation. Bearing in mind, I think they've got to earn. I think I saw a stat the other day. They've got to get 1.5 points per game from now to the end of the season just to get 34, 35 points in order to stay up. If you were them, knowing what you know about their finances, would you take the gamble and try and get 3 or 4 players in January, or would you just say we're down, leave it?
I might get 3 or 4 players who are suited for the Championship next season in January, and hope that perhaps 1 or 2 of them might prove, because football in the Championship, which is Saturday, Tuesday, is a completely different environment from the Premier League, where
Mm.
the vast majority of the time you're playing once a week. I remember when Burnley qualified for Europe, which was a hell of an achievement a few years ago. And I know some of the guys at Burnley, and they said in the Premier League, what's happens is, we play a match at the weekend. We sort of have a bit of a recovery on Monday morning, but from sort of Monday afternoon onwards, all of the drills are on. Last week we played Southampton. Next week we've got Villa. This is how Villa play, and every single moment was these are your drills against Villa. This is what they do in attack. This is what they do for corners, and all you were doing was preparing for that next fixture. If you're playing in Europe, or if you're playing Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, I remember when Burnley went into Europe, their weekend match had to be on a Sunday. They were you have a recovery day on Monday. Tuesday you have light training. You fly out on the Wednesday, or perhaps the Thursday. You don't get back till Friday, so therefore you've only got a day to prepare for your weekend fixture.
Yeah.
And for the smaller clubs, and I'm a Brighton fan. We noticed that in our year in Europe, there is a hangover the following season. On average, you're going to be 11 points down on where you were the previous season, simply because you don't have the big enough squad to rotate to allow you to do midweek weekend matches. So it does come at a big financial cost.
Yeah, it's a really good and interesting point you raised there, because a lot of fans don't see that. They just see the two games. They don't see what goes on. They forget sometimes you're flying 3,000 miles to a match, and the match is local time is 2 hours ahead. So you don't sometimes fly, but you don't end up going back to the airport till 6 in the morning. So obviously you can't go and train. The players will go home, and you don't get anything done that day. They might come in the afternoon, possibly. But yeah, it's a time thing between training, isn't it? So there's a big difference between, say, this season, Man United, for example, not having any European football, and Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, those sorts of teams playing. There's a completely different setup, isn't it, this season for those clubs? Yeah, yeah. Good, covered it. Lovely. Move on. Next subject.
Next subject, right? Yes. Look, I want to talk because we've got a mutual friend of ours, um, uh, who's a Sheffield Wednesday fan. So I want to talk about Sheffield Wednesday because they've been the talk of the nation for quite a while now, with Hansiri and his antics, and pulling out all, like you said, you touched on earlier, pulling out his funding, not from not helping out, and not even being in the country to try and support them. But they went into administration. What I want to know is could the EFL have done anything more to force that issue a bit sooner, or I don't know if they can force, if the EFL can force a chairman or owner out of a club. But yeah, could that have happened any sooner? And also for the future, we know that there's bidders. What's next for them? What's the future for them, for the club?
Okay. I mean, if I've answered that second question first, it looks as if we've narrowed it down to three serious bidders for Sheffield Wednesday, one of whom is Mike Ashley. Two are American, is my understanding. One of whom is sort of two parties who've decided to work together, two potential bidders. There's one called Johnny Towers or something crazy, and he's a professional gambler and entrepreneur. He sounds a bit of a wild one.
Yeah.
So the administrator, I think they're now taking final bids this week. So we might hear between Christmas and New Year. Could hear Christmas Eve would be a nice Christmas present for Wednesday fans. It will have to pass the EFL owners and directors test, but I think that can be accelerated. So that's where we are in terms of potential outcomes. Could the EFL have done more? I've got to be honest that they couldn't, because Sheffield Wednesday is losing 300-400 grand a week. So if you boot Chansiri out, you still got that gap. Who's going to fund that gap? I think that they were quite fortunate in many ways, Sheffield Wednesday, that HMRC issued a winding up order against the club, which sort of forced Chansiri's hand. He didn't have the money to pay the outstanding tax, so therefore his only alternative was to put the club into administration to stop it from being wound up. So whoever whoever phoned up HMRC and said, any chance of accelerating a winding up order
Yeah,
for Sheffield Wednesday Football Club, perhaps that person deserves a bit of praise.
yeah,
Yeah, I
perhaps,
agree.
yeah, perhaps.
The only sort of positive I can see from that whole well, I say scandal, it's well, probably can't word a better word, is at least Chancery's put the club and the ground up as a joint enterprise, which is what I was
Mm,
worried that wasn't going to
mm.
happen. I was thinking because you'd end up with someone owning the club and someone else owning the ground,
Yeah,
and it'd be a real bag of worms, wouldn't it?
That's a real danger. Yeah.
Yeah, and what you don't want is what happened at Chelsea years ago in the late 70s and 80s, where you've got a property developer owning the ground, and then you've got an owner like Ken Bates buys it for £1, and there's a 10-year legal battle with the people owning the club to try and get the ground back. So yeah, that's one positive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was good. We had that issue at Derby County where
mm,
the former owner put the football club into administration, separated out the football ground, and was then in a position that if he didn't like a potential bidder, just say, if you want to go and play at Pride Park, I'm going to charge you £1 million a match rent, or if you want to buy the
yeah,
stadium off me, it's going to cost you 80 million. It's only worth 20 or whatever it's going to be. So yes, Chancery has seen sense or has been persuaded by somebody to go down the sensible route, which
Yeah,
is unusual for Chancery.
yeah. Also, I couldn't imagine Sheffield Wednesday playing at Bramall Lane, for example, if they didn't have a ground. That'd be a bit.
Yeah, I don't think that'd go down well.
No, I don't think it would.
no. And I believe that was an avenue that the Sheffield United board had investigated was buying them out and merging the two clubs, which I don't think would have gone down too well between the fans, would it?
Yeah. I think that one would have been rejected fairly quickly. I think.
I mean,
Yeah,
that might work somewhere like Macclesfield, who's not got big enough for. It's just about space for one club, but Sheffield's a big enough place to have at
Yeah,
least two big clubs, isn't it? Really. So
yeah. I
yeah,
can't see Wilder the Sheffield United owner,
no,
so the manager saying, "I've got these two squads now."
yeah,
yeah,
No, not going to work like that.
yeah.
no.
And the kits would be interesting as well. You'd have
Mm.
half red and white, and half blue and white. It'd be a bit odd. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, what they could do, I mean, what would have happened is that they could have taken the red stripes from the Sheffield United kit and the white stripe from the Sheffield Wednesday kit.
yeah, yeah. That's true. Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
You
So
could have
yeah,
made them
well,
red
I
and blue
think for
stripes. That'd be interesting. Love it.
for all Sheffield Wednesday fans and obviously Sheffield United fans, I think they'll be glad that that's not happening. And I
Yeah,
think and I hope that all Sheffield Wednesday fans are happy with how things are progressing, and there does seem to be the light of the tunnel does seem to be quite big now.
mm.
That
Yeah,
it's nearing
yeah.
its
We're
end.
on the right lines. Yeah.
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 I think
So,
lastly, Kieran, I think we've got one more thing to say. Well, obviously you've read the statement that was released by our club, Farnborough,
Mm.
in regards to I think opening up for more
investors.
investors or future investors to the club. Um, firstly, what do you make of the statement? Good thing, bad thing, or have you had anything else? Any perspective? Sheikhs from Saudi Arabia interested, that sort of thing.
I've heard no whispers about potential people involved. The best deals are announced in as a surprise. I mean, Farnborough FC are losing a wee bit of money, not significant amounts, but they don't. But they are reliant upon borrowings to fund the club. They've got, from what I can see, they don't own the ground itself. Is that right?
It's a lease. The council own it, and
Yeah.
they've got a 99-year lease, I believe it is.
Right. Yeah. So that would appear to be the case. From I did we look at the accounts before we came on air. So they've got the intellectual property, they've got the fans' loyalty, they've got the regular crowds, and they've also got responsible for people's jobs. By the way,
Yeah.
we forget that regardless of how far up the pyramid you are, as far as club is concerned, it's got staff, and unemployment's at pretty high levels at present. So that's worth preserving. The current owner has clearly looked at the budget. I guess ambition is to get to National League and then see where you go from there. National League's quite brutal in terms of the losses, so you might need somebody with deeper pockets. And I I talk to American investors and overseas investors quite a lot. They've all been seduced by the Wrexham story. The trouble is, it's a bit like a new genre of TV or music. You the leaders are the ones that get all of the attention. The people that copy it tend to be forgotten quite quickly. Who remembers who was successful in Big Brother 9, for example? By then. That's my concern. You can't replicate the achievements of Wrexham. What Ryan Reynolds and Rob Mack, as he is now done, there's been superb, but they are the story. The football club is sort of the supporting actor. It's been very well presented, that, and I don't think that can be replicated. You can't replicate it 50 or 60 times, because you can only have 24 clubs in the Championship. You can only have 20 clubs in the Premier League, and so on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Fair point.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well,
Right.
thanks for that information, Leah. But look, we know your time is precious. We'll let you go. We'll let you go. Thanks for coming on tonight, Kieran. It's been great as usual. And you're welcome back on at any other time, as you so
Thanks.
wish.
Thank you, guys, and it's great to talk again. And I wish you and your families a peaceful and happy Christmas together, and a fantastic and successful 2026 for you and the club.
Thank you, Kieran. Yeah,
Thank you,
same to you. Took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, thank you very much.
Good
Okay.
Christmas and Happy New Year to you as well. And so we'll let you go.
All the best, Kieran.
Cheers, guys.
All the best.
Take care.
Yourself.
Okay.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Ross.
Ta-ra now. Cheers.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Take care.
Well,
That's
that
it.
was Kieran Maguire. Obviously, he's an amazing expert in all things finances and football. I hope everybody took something away from that, with what we talked about, and obviously, look, well, our mutual friend Paul and other Sheffield Wednesday fans. I hope they take something away from that about Sheffield, about their club as well.
There isn't kind of a lot I think
quite
Kieran
good
can
over
add to what people already know, but as I mentioned, it's the most important thing is that the ground and the club are being sold as the same entity rather than separately, which is the most important thing. I think that a lot of that was the one thing I feared about it when I first heard that. But yeah, having had a chat with Kieran before, he did say that was the case, so that's good news. So yeah,
that
happy
is good.
days.
That is very good news.
Yeah, good
Right.
stuff. Hope everyone enjoyed the episode. It's slightly different slant of what we normally do, covering just Farnborough. We thought we'd have a more general financial update really, and for all.
Yeah, no, well, sometimes it is good to do stuff like this. We don't always have to talk about Farnborough. We don't always have to talk non-league football. Although obviously some of the financial constraints of clubs does cover non-league football.
Yeah, it's quite eye-watering, though, isn't it, in regards to the amount of money clubs lose. I mean, you never think you're 400,000 pounds, and that's just an average. Some clubs are losing more than that. Some are doing slightly better.
No, absolutely.
So
it does beg the question. How? I mean, we didn't ask this of Kieran, but it does beg the question of how these clubs are actually surviving.
Well, they're reliant. Well, like most clubs, they're all reliant on one benefactor generally, one person at the top, and as what's happened at Sheffield Wednesday and at Derby, that both examples Kieran mentioned there. Sooner or later, they have enough, pull the plug, and that's it. That's when your club falls by the wayside or goes into administration, and you're suddenly looking for that next benefactor to sort of take on the burden, as it were. But yeah, it's a tough world of football. So there we are.
It is, and all fans, even including non-league fans, need to take that into account, really, don't they? We all want the best for our clubs. We all want our clubs to do this and do that and go as far as they can. But at the end of the day, they've got to look after the money, haven't they? They've got to look after the finances. They
at the end of the day,
too far, because they'll push that barrier, that financial barrier, too hard.
Yeah,
and it will all come crumbling down. And for certain clubs, some clubs, if it does come crumbling down, it could well be the last time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would be for our club, Farnborough, for example. It would be the end of the road if that happened again. So
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
None of us want to see that.
Yeah, I think there's optimism though all around for anybody, unless you're a Wolves fan, by the sounds of it. So that's the way it is.
Right, let's leave it there then, Simon. Yeah, let's leave it there. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you all enjoyed watching Kieran there, as we enjoyed talking to him. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to all the other episodes. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We will be back next week with our final episode of the year, Christmas episode, where we have got the one and only Aaron Kuhl on the show, talking all things football again and all things Christmas.
Yep,
around football.
And a nice update from him regards his current status and his
Positive,
progress.
Yeah. Well, if anybody's been watching his Instagram, he's making really good progress, quite positive progress. I saw him the other day.
I saw it.
Kicking a ball the other day.
I saw he's kicking a ball. Yeah, I said to him, "Is
Yeah.
he in the squad for Boxing Day?" But he said he wasn't quite ready for that. So,
not quite yet. Not quite.
Yeah.
Not quite.
So,
Anyway,
looking forward to that one.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So this episode was sponsored by Tratec Consulting, taking your business visions and turning them into innovative reality. For more information, visit tratecconsulting.co.uk. As I said, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and give us a follow if you're not following us already. Simon, say good night.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Look forward to our last episode of the year, recording next week. Take care, guys.
And